Greetings, brothers and sisters, in the name of the Most High Yahuwah and His Son, Yahusha. Brothers and sisters, I am bringing forth an appendix to my video entitled, Did Pastor Dowell Destroy the Lunar Sabbath? And the reason why I'm doing so is this. In the section in my original video that's entitled The Extra Days of the Month, you will notice that as it begins, it immediately starts talking about 1 Samuel chapter 20. Well, you'll see that there is some information before that. And so what happened was I accidentally edited that out because there is a part in the 1 Samuel 20 part that I wanted to edit out, and I edited out more information than I wanted to. And so what I want to do is I want to include the information in this appendix that I had originally intended to in the main video. And so the first objection that is raised, this is an objection Pastor Dowell raised. This is a very common objection that many people raise, and that is, what do you do with the extra days at the end of the month? So, my answer to that is that there are no transition days or non-days, but rather three classes of days. And we see that in Ezekiel chapter 46, verses 1 through 3. That's the 6 days of work, the Sabbath, and the new moon. Now, the idea of transition days. I want to also take this opportunity in this appendix to correct myself, because 3 years ago I put out a video series in response to King Yaqub's video, Lunar Sabbath Nuked, wherein I included an appendix video in that series where I spoke of the 30th day being a transition day. I specifically said a transition into the new moon. Well, I will correct myself that that was not correct, because I've come to a fuller understanding of 1 Samuel chapter 20 now. And so now I am declaring that there are no transition days and there are no non-days. Now, I've never taught non-days, okay, but there's no transition day. There are no non-days. The 30th day is part of the new moon celebration. And so you may ask, well, do you have scripture to back that up? I have a good scriptural example in 1 Samuel chapter 20 that's what's going on there. We see Shaul, the king, holding a special meal on the new moon for 2 days in a row. In fact, in verse 5, when it was said that tomorrow is the new moon, that Dowell and Jehonathan, or David and Jonathan, they had already planned on meeting after 2 days. And so they knew this would be a 2-day celebration. And so we see that Dowell was expected to be there 2 days in a row. The second day he wasn't there. That's when Shaul said something about it, and that's when he had that altercation with his son, Jehonathan. But brothers and sisters, once again, there are no transition days. There are no non-days. Now, later in the original video, I go further into that and talk about where this idea of non-days comes from. But I don't teach that, and people I fellowship with that they don't teach that there are just three classes of days. There's the 6 days of work, the Sabbath, and the new moon. Now, one other bit of information that I want to begin to talk about, and in the main video, I pick up on this and I finish it, but this part was edited out as well, and I believe this is very important in understanding 1 Samuel chapter 20. Now, in 1 Samuel chapter 20, brothers and sisters, that in verses 27 and 34, if you have a King James Bible or just about any of the popular Bibles, whether it be in the Christian Bibles or Messianic, that it will say second day of the month. And so it gives the impression that they met the first day of the month, the first day, which is the new moon day, and then they just met just for another supper on the second day of the month. That's the impression that it gives. But as you notice up on the slide, that I spell out the phrase that's used for second day of the month, and that is HaChodesh HaSheni. HaChodesh HaSheni. Now, follow me here on this, because this is very important. That what I want to bring out about this is that this is a very unique phrase, that this is not the normal way of expressing the term second day of the month. This is not the normal way of expressing that. In fact, this statement is in a couple other places in the scriptures, but it's actually translated as the second month. So the second month of the year. And the reason for that, brothers and sisters, is the word Chodesh in the scriptures. It could either be translated as month or it could be translated as new moon. Now, this is a study that I've done, and this is a study that I suggest that you do. Go through the scriptures and look at where it says, like, first day of the month, third day of the month, seventh day of the month, 10th day of the month, any given day of the month. Look at the Hebrew rendering for that. Go through like an interlinear online. You can do a Google search, and just any given scriptural verse, just put the verse and put Hebrew interlinear, and it'll take you to a place where you can see the actual Hebrew. And when it talks about a certain day of the month, that in my studies, what I have found is that the number will always come first. And so here in verses 27 and 34 of 1 Samuel 20, if it was truly intended to convey the meaning of second day of the month, then it would have been written HaSheni L'Chodesh. HaSheni L'Chodesh. The number always comes first as far as what I've studied. Now, if you see something different, then please show me. But whenever it talks about a certain month in the year, it will put the word Chodesh first and the number last. Like here, it says HaChodesh HaSheni, which in two other places in the scripture, it's actually translated as the second month, not second day of the month. So the word Chodesh, the word for month, or new moon will come first, and then the number second when they're talking about a month in the year. But when they're talking about a day of the month, then the number will come first, and then the word Chodesh will come second. I haven't seen any exceptions to this, brothers and sisters. So what that means is that there's only two possibilities for HaChodesh HaSheni. That's either second month or second new moon, or second day of the new moon. And when we look at it in context, brothers and sisters, that second month does not make sense in this passage, because we know they met 2 days in a row. So that leaves us with second new moon, or second day of the new moon. And if you go to, I believe it's BibleHub.com, it'll have all kind of different translations of any given verse that you type in. If you type in verses 27 and 34 of 1 Samuel 20, what you will find is, if you look at the multiple Bible translations, there are actual Bible translations that say second day of the new moon. That's how Bible translators who know the Hebrew now, that's how they translated it in certain translations. And so we see that is a valid way of translating the term HaChodesh HaSheni. So that's what's going on there, brothers and sisters. They met on the 30th day, and then they met on the first day. So they had a 2-day new moon celebration. When it was said in verse 5, tomorrow is the new moon, it was the meaning of that was tomorrow's the new moon celebration, because they knew they were going to be meeting for 2 days. That's why Daud and Yehonathan, or David and Jonathan, planned on getting together after 2 days and not just after the 1 day. Praise Yah. And so I explained the rest of 1 Samuel 20 in the main video, but I wanted to include what was edited out of there in this appendix. And so I'm very thankful for you all that have watched the main video all the way through. and just thank you for your prayers and your support with this project. I will say this before I go. Now, I was serious about the question that I posed. Did Pastor Dowell destroy the lunar Sabbath? That I want people to answer that question. Give me a yes or no in the comments and qualify your answer. Tell why you think yes or why you think no. And then also the challenge questions that I posed. I expect those challenge questions to be answered. I would like answers to those challenge questions because, as I said in the main video, I pose those challenge questions to help people to challenge their own belief. Many of you all that keep the Roman seventh-day reckoning of the Shabbat, you've never learned how to prove all things. You've never learned how to challenge your own belief. You've accepted your belief as the default, and therefore anything that challenges it is just wrong and something to be debunked. Well, the challenge questions will give you a good start in challenging your own belief, challenging the Roman seventh-day reckoning to see whether it stands or whether it falls. So, once again, please answer the challenge questions and please answer the original question. And with that, I will say, Shalom.